Has something ever disturbed you so much that it made you question your own reality? It made you question who you were? It instilled a deep existential fear in you that you may have lost a part of yourself that you weren't even aware had ever gone away in the first place. Now, if you're anything like me, if you were a Star Wars fan in the year 2019, you may have felt all of these feelings upon the conclusion of a little movie called Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. To preface this a little bit, growing up, I was a huge Star Wars fan, probably as a result of the fact that my parents were huge Star Wars fans. I remember finally being allowed to watch a VHS copy of Star Wars. Not Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, just called Star Wars. It was the original cut of the movie. Growing up, I was definitely one of those little assholes that was like, Han Solo actually shot Greedo first. Most people don't know this, because George Lucas likes to play revisionist history or something. But the same year, for Christmas, I got the hot new video game, Lego Star Wars, for the Macintosh. That was my first experience with a new video game, the hot new release. Because up to that point, I had only ever played Super Mario 64, Super Mario World, and Balls 3D. So from that point on, it was kind of cooked. I was locked in. My parents were very adamant about me practicing a certain level of restraint, a certain level of patience. So they made me actually wait like multiple years in between watching the movies that we owned in the basement. I had to wait like 2 years to watch Empire Strikes Back. I had to wait at least another year to watch Return of the Jedi. And they were Star Wars purists. So they weren't super big on me watching the prequels, but, I wanted to watch them anyway. I already knew story from playing Lego Star Wars, but seeing it come to life on the big screen, or I should say the small screen. We had to get those movies mailed in by Netflix. You remember when Netflix used to mail movies in? What a great service. You see that little red sleeve in the mail, and you're like, fuck, yes, dude. Netflix delivered, baby. We get to watch exactly one movie now. Hell yeah. But I have very fond memories. I have very distinct memories. We didn't have cable television growing up. So I remember going over to my grandparents' house. They had cable television, and I would get the newspaper, and I would look through the TV times to find when Star Wars: The Clone Wars was coming on, so I could soak up every ounce of that content possible. Couldn't get enough of it. Couldn't get enough of that shit, baby. So, life kind of marches on. And then it happened. Disney purchased Lucasfilm. I feel like at the time I was sort of ambivalent on the whole thing. I didn't really know how I felt. But I don't know, man. Seeing that video on the internet of good old George Lucas signing that piece of paper, cashing the fuck in, it hurt a little bit. It did hurt a little bit to see such a titan of science fiction walking away from the thing he created. But to be fair, how much have any of us been paid for anything we made? Definitely not, how much was it? Definitely not $4 billion. And that's just the sale. I'm not even talking about everything else he made during the creation of it. But Star Wars fans they kind of suck a lot of the time, let's be real. I think they know better than the creator. After all the shit he got for the prequels, I don't know, I might have walked away from it too. And I'm rewatching the prequels, and dude, they're good. They're fucking good. I'm just gonna say it, because I loved them when I was a kid. I hated them as a teenager, and I love them now. And the only reason I hated them as a teenager, I think, was because other people were telling me that that's what I should be doing. I wanted to be a purist, like my parents were. But anyways, Disney buys Star Wars. So what the fuck is gonna happen? Finally, it rolls around that we are getting a new mainline Star Wars movie, Episode 7. It's got all the fan favorites. It's got all the characters we know and love. And based on the fucking poster, I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little bit jebaited when I had seen the movie, because they had Finn holding the lightsaber in all of the posters, all the promotional material. Finn was holding the lightsaber, and I knew from the trailer that he was a stormtrooper, so I thought they were going to do something really sick and subversive where the stormtrooper defects and sort of realizes that he's force sensitive or whatever and gets to ball out with a sick-ass lightsaber. But no. What we got, you know what? I'll tell you what we got. At the time, I liked the movie. The movie came out, and I thought it was a good movie. That was until my dad pointed out, he goes, it was fine. It was the original Star Wars over again, but, it's all right. Shit, he was right. I was not to be dissuaded from my enjoyment because, you need a stepping stone. You need some solid ground to build something off of. People love nostalgia. We got a person on a sand planet with a funny little droid, and they go off on an adventure, and they blow up a base that's killing the other planets. Except this time, the base is really big and it could kill 20 planets all at the same time. You know, in hindsight, it was kind of a shitty fucking rehash of the Death Star. Such an iconic supervillain base, the Death Star. He's literally said, what if it was that, but even more huger and could kill more people? What if instead of Space Hitler, we had Space Super Hitler? Yeah. But you know, there was some mystery. I was curious about who Snoke was. They fucking murked my boy Han. So overall, I would say that I liked it at the time. But I was feeling, let's say, dubious about the future. You go on YouTube and you type in Star Wars The Force Awakens video essay and just look at how many of these are like multiple hours long. It's crazy. This Mahler guy, 2 hours, 42 minutes. A critique of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Introduction. He's got an hour and 40 minutes just on the death of Han Solo. Hey man, respect. I don't know how you stretch something that fucking much. I will not be watching, but respect nonetheless. But let's fast forward. I don't care about the Han Solo movie. I don't care about any of the TV bullshit they're putting out. But finally, 2019, The Rise of Skywalker comes out. And I go with some friends, and I go see it. I was thrown off a little bit because in the first 5 minutes, the editing was so fast, and there were so many cuts. I started to get a little bit motion sick. It calmed down. You know, I'm watching the movie and I felt like I was just sort of passively taking in what I was seeing and I started to feel sort of numb, you know, which is not something that you should feel upon the conclusion of a 40-year-long space epic. This is supposed to be the conclusion, but I just wasn't feeling anything. And then the movie ends. All my heroes are dead. Luke Skywalker's dead. Princess Leia's dead. Han Solo's dead. Kylo Ren is dead. The Skywalker bloodline has been wiped out after 2 generations. What we got? Anakin and we got Luke. And I guess Ben Solo. Rey takes up the mantle of Skywalker for herself, even though she's apparently a Palpatine. I'm not even going to get into all that bullshit. I left the movie theater and I was like, hey, you know, that was fine. I went to bed that night and I was literally depressed. I was so depressed. I woke up the next day. I didn't know why I was so depressed. It took me weeks of rumination, and I was like, I think the sequel trilogy sucks fucking ass. But that last movie was so fucking bad. It was so unimaginably terrible. Because make no mistake, there were redeeming qualities about The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Redeeming qualities. It's not the story. It's not the characters. Some of the visuals are kind of nice. Some of the action is decent. But the last movie, The Rise of Skywalker, was so bad that I didn't even want to look at Star Wars. I didn't want to think about Star Wars for a long time. It made me question whether I had ever liked Star Wars, or if that was just kind of a childish thing, fantastical thing that, you know, was made for kids. I think I just grew out of it. Didn't look at anything Star Wars for a very, very long time. Then they just kept pumping out more slop. Oh, dude, they got Ewan McGregor back for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I saw my brother and my dad watching it, and I didn't bother. I couldn't be bothered to care. No, dude, The Mandalorian is so good. Fuck that, dude. It's Star Wars. I don't give a shit about that. And then Andor came out. People were like, no, this is actually auteur television or something. And I was like, don't care. About maybe a year and a half ago, me and a coworker were talking. He's a big Star Wars fan, and I was like, yeah, man, I used to really love Star Wars, but I don't know, I just don't really care for it anymore. That last movie kind of ruined it. I don't really feel like looking at Star Wars anymore. I'm like, was it even ever good? He was like, bro, just watch Andor. Trust me on this one. I was like, you know what, man? I value your opinion. So I decided to check it out, and it was pretty slow going. But by the end of that 3rd episode, it's safe to say I was locked the fuck in. I was like, wait, this is kind of baller. I forgot I was even watching Star Wars. It was just kind of like this heist drama. I finished Andor, loved it. It was amazing, loved every second of it. Waited for Andor season 2 to come out, watched that, loved every second of it. Then I watched Rogue One. Then I watched the original trilogy, and I realized all of the Disney slop that was being pumped out was diluting the gold that was already in there. And the problem is that the sequel trilogy set the precedent that nothing ever fucking ends. You just have to sit here. You gotta take what we shove down your fucking throat. New storylines, new retcons, new plot points are being opened up. We got time travel in Star Wars now. Multiversal bullshit, probably. But if you take episodes 1 through episode 6, in front of you, you have a story of a man corrupted by darkness and redeemed through the unwavering faith and hope of his child. And that's what Star Wars was supposed to be. Archetypical storytelling. modern myth. That's what I believe George Lucas's intention was. It's wrapped up in the blockbuster veneer, obviously, but I realized that I just had to shift my mindset. The sequels, they don't actually exist if I don't want them to. It's all entertainment. I can make up exactly what I want in my own head. Headcanon is real. It's very real. The story begins and ends with Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, the Emperor. It took me like 5 years of being a Star Wars hater to realize that I didn't have to take what a corporation was telling me. This is what's canon. Here's what's canon. I don't have to give a fuck about any of that shit. Nobody does. Because at the end of the day, the sequel trilogy just made me feel bad. Because it means that Vader's return from the dark side meant nothing. Throwing Palpatine down the fucking Death Star reactor meant nothing. Luke Skywalker's entire life meant absolutely nothing if you are to accept the sequel trilogy as canon. It is the most pathetic Reddit fanfiction type of writing. The fact that they didn't plan out an overarching storyline and switch directors every movie. I don't know what the plan was. And part of me still thinks it was a psyop to disillusion people and confuse them. And it worked on me for a long time, but not anymore. Not anymore. I get that, maybe it's kind of cringe to sit here and rant about some property made for children, but hey, do not kill the part of you that is cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes. It's not my fault that I grew up with Star Wars and it means a lot to me. That is not my fault. It's not my fault that it upset me when something that was a large part of what sparked my imagination as a child was thrown to the wayside so carelessly in search of higher and higher gains and more profit. But always remember, it is never your fault when something happens to you, but how you handle it after the fact is your responsibility. It's a shitty truth that you gotta realize at one point or another. It's not your fault when something happens to you, but what you do after that is your responsibility. Thank you guys so much for 400 subscribers. That actually means a lot to me. And yeah, we're going to keep it rolling. Thanks for watching, boys. Talk to you again soon.